All right. So you stayed till the end, right? You didn't want to go home early? No? You did, but you stayed. Ah, cool. So I'm glad to see so many faces here. I really like this conference. I've been here many years ago, and I'm glad so I could return back. So how that works? Like this, maybe? Ah, awesome. So who am I, right? I'm from Prague. I wrote a couple books. Those are the latest two. The black one is selling quite well. The white one, people don't know about. So I have this OKR, you want to call it, or just a goal, to do something about it this year. So one of those things is to show up at conferences like this one and speak about something and show that picture of that book. And now it comes, where I completely failed, right? You have this goal, right? And then on my last conference, Agile Prague, September, I sold out all of the physical books. So I thought it's easy, right? I always buy them and they ship them next week. This time, they're not in Europe. So I'm already waiting for 4 weeks. And I'm afraid I'm going to be waiting for another 4 weeks. So I'm sorry, I completely failed. I don't have any books to give away, but if you see me somewhere else, I might have some and give them later. So that's my apologize and a big failure. Sometimes, you know, things go differently than you plan for. Anyway, I want to share a story how I started. So some summer afternoon, 2010, I got this wonderful opportunity. I got 3 departments, developers, testers, hardware guys. And I was asked to build some very collaborative, cross-functional, if you say, department called engineering out of it. And come up with my own structure and own ideas. So I went back, sit in the garden and say like, wow, I can finally make it my own way. I made it, right? All those years complaining and now I can do it. Isn't that great? And then it came back to me. I imagined this 100 people coming to my office every day with all those requests. Can you tell me what I should do in this situation? Can you decide? Can you approve my vacation? It was like, I don't want to do that. I don't know what to do. But then, you know, next day brought new energy. And I got this courage to fight the system, fight everything what we did before, and come up with a very different structure based on self-managing teams, no managers, and sort of just Scrum Masters, product owners, that type of stuff. I'll tell you a little bit about our chairman of a board. He was an older guy, smart guy, very formal, wearing a suit, always keeping a distance. He got this aura, he could never be wrong. And that day, he was clearly in a good mood. He was like sitting there making jokes and saying, so, we sort of ask you to come up with your own engineering structure, right? So let's hear what kind of managers you choose. I was like, managers? I don't have any managers. Like, what should I do? It's too late. So I started. I said, like, okay, so that's why you actually asked me to come up with my own structure. So I did a research of similar-minded companies, right? And, but let me first take one step back and say, why are we standing here today? Because we have those 3 problems we need to solve, right? We need to be more flexible, faster learning, and keep bringing some business innovations to our customers. Is that right? Yeah. Yes, right? Cool. So, in my research, it turns out that those organizations are having a very flat structure, those who are successful, right? And no managers in that. No managers. Yes, okay, so you want to make us agile, huh? Yeah. Well, we choose you because we want to be a modern organization, and so I think we should try it. And I don't remember the rest, to be really honest with you. I don't have a clue what he said. He just said yes to my crazy idea, which I never tried before. I didn't know what to do. So we started. And it was a story full of failures, as I'm going to share some of those later on. But I think the ability to stay in front of people and say, hey, it was a failure, I didn't mean it, and I failed, and I'm sorry, actually saved me. It became real for them. It's not them who need to change, it's actually us who need to change. So, first thing first, I think the only reason why he said yes was because I didn't say I want to be Agile, because Agile is great, it's a new way of working. I didn't care. But I said, it's just a way how to achieve some of our goals. And I link it back from the one moment to our goals, to our strategic reasons why we really need to change. So I think that would change his mind. Otherwise, he was struggling the whole time. Now imagine this is a traditional organization, right? The hierarchy, managers, departments, all that stuff. Artistic version of it, maybe. And then, when you start change, right? You start creating those little dots here and there, and try self-organization and Scrum and Kanban and self-management, and learn from those failures. Yes, you're going to fail first few times. You're going to try it. It's not going to work as you planned for. But with those experiments, right? And as you continue, it's like a washing machine. When those experiments start changing parts of your organization, but parts are still the same. It's like a washing machine. It's really ugly. No one likes it there. And then he was always at my door saying like, okay, so I really would like to know who is responsible. It's like, yeah, well, who is responsible, right? I guess the team is responsible, right? It's like, no, the team can't be responsible. Like, then I am responsible as the only, we just got a few directors, so at the end of the day, it was always me. Oh, you can't be responsible for everything. So what I did, I tried to invite him, like, come and join us so you can see how that really works. But it was very hard for him. But eventually, if you continue explaining and sharing and inviting people to join, it clicks. Those two structures, yellow and black, click together. And you have this quietness, this almost like a harmony. And it all works really well. I mean, you still fail, you still learn from mistakes, but it's not a friction anymore. It's actually okay. That's who we are. We are Agile. We learn from mistakes, right? Not a big deal. So, my second tip, leaders need to change first. But when I say leaders, I don't mean managers. Otherwise, it would say managers need to change. Leaders need to change. And leadership is a state of mind. You all are the leaders. Some of you might be still sleeping, sort of kind of thing, saying, I'm not sure if I'm a leader. I'm not sure if I trust in my skills, abilities. I don't know yet. But some of you already wake up and take an initiative. It could be anything small. Hey, I don't like this technical debt. I was sitting here on that technical debt. It was number 9, 8, I don't know. Right? I don't like this technical debt. Let's do something about it. Or anything else which you care about. So that's where leaders start. And I thought about myself. I never asked to be a director. I never wanted to be a Scrum Master either. I actually didn't want to be the leader of the Girls Scout group. It just happened to me for some reason. And I keep saying yes to those random opportunities and say, okay, I'll try and see what happens. So it's just your decision. Do I want to say yes to that opportunity? Do I want to take the initiative? And that's what makes you a leader, not a position or anything. So leaders need to change first. The organization will follow your lead, your changes. Now, speaking of Agile organization, this is the best metaphor I got. I take it from Steve Denning to give him a credit, right? Traditional organization would be like a tanker boat, while Agile organization is more like a flotilla of small, little, tiny ships. They have the autonomy. They can make their own decisions. And that was hard, specifically for that person who was actually giving me all that authority to change the organization into a flotilla of small boats, but didn't understand that metaphor at that time. and could not really say like, oh, I trust those little ships that they make their good decision. He still feel like somebody smart should make that decision. It was a big shift. So, flotilla of small boats, right? But here is a deal. If they don't have the same purpose, and that's what's happening in many clients I've seen, they build self-organization, but they somehow forgot to give them the one purpose in common. So what those little boats do? Hey, let's go fishing. It's a great idea. Oh, we'll go swimming over there. The sunshine is here, and so on and so on. Just go to different direction, and it's even worse. Because you would think that if they go to the different direction, they would notice and we would have a conversation. We are agile, right? But the problem is even deeper. I remember one small organization, 40 people, plus minus, 5 teams. And they all went to a different direction. And they believed they understand the purpose the same way. So when we try to challenge them, they say, no, this is actually why we are actually better than the other teams. We go towards the purpose as the only ones. And those guys said exactly the same thing. Those are wrong. That's not our direction. That's not where we're supposed to go. But we are the right ones because our purpose is unbelievable. And at that time, it was impossible to make them align, so it created chaos. Very typical. Now, being a leader, you need to make that visible, right? But we're going to talk about that a little later. So here is how. Like that was just an introduction into like what is Agile, what is leadership, what is Agile organization. But here is the star which I use for leadership competencies. So a couple of things there, some soft skills, some harder skills. You need to have a vision, motivation, feedback, decision, collaboration, coaching, facilitation, and be able to change yourself. Change through working with the other people and change with working with the entire system. And we'll go deeper to some of those, maybe not all, but I would like you to think individually for a minute. Just each of you. Deep dive into yourself. Think, okay, I'm a leader. That's me. No one else. And the question will be, what do you need to change to become this agile leader? It will be different for each of you. So I'll give you a minute, quiet time, reflection, so you can think about changing yourself, and through that, maybe creating an impact to your organization. So 1 minute, quiet time. And that 1 minute is over, so I hope you came up with some reflection. But when I did that reflection, I thought, there is one thing I need to be able to explain to everybody. There is one thing which needs to be in my mind every morning when I wake up, and that's a dream. And it's not a vision, it's not a OKR, it's not anything like that. It's a dream. Because if you wake up and you're tired because you might not sleep that well, you need to wake up and have that dream in your mind and saying, I want to change this organization. And it needs to be important for you. Not for anybody else at the first, but for you. And then you do that reflection and think about, okay, if I want that organization to be based on self-managing team. That was what I said. Why? Because there is this energy, and people take ownership and responsibility. I've experienced it in our Scrum teams, so it should work for the organizational level, right? So I thought, okay, I want to achieve that. I want to have that energy at the organizational level. I want to make us a team together. And when you have that strong enough, then of course you do the reflection, which is that, and think about what do I have to change. For me, it was stop telling people what to do. Give them a space. And I thought it's easy. Yeah, she's saying no, it's not. It was not easy. So I remember what saved me in that time, because I did this presentation and tell everybody where we want to go and why is it important, and that the customers really needs that, and put the stories around, and those stories worked. So they said, okay, we see that. We are a bit afraid of change. There are people who dislike it, people who say, yes, go for it, right? Like typical sphere. It's not just to align everybody. But then the first crisis came. And I was keep telling people, like, hey, you can make your own decisions. You can figure that out. And in that crisis time, I shift back to the old behavior and make a decision. And I communicated why I did that. I thought I act as a good leader. And then next day, one of my oldest colleagues, kind of a friend, came up to my office and said, hey, I want to tell you something. You were asking us to change, and make our own decisions. But yesterday, you actually made it for us. We were ready with similar solution, by the way, with our team, but you stopped it. I was like, now I didn't know what to do, because that was pretty straightforward. I knew I completely screwed up. So I did the only thing I thought of at that time, similarly as I started here. I say, hey, I'm sorry I failed. I got this feedback from one of you. Thank you for that. And I'm on that journey with you. I'm also learning. It's not that simple for me. I came up with this idea, but I also don't know how to do it. So please tell me next time as well. I'll try to make it better next time. And I apologized as publicly as I could. And that was actually the one thing, I believe, looking backwards, which saved me. Being honest about it, being open about it, being able to learn from feedback. The habits will not go away overnight. It's impossible. You've been practicing that type of behavior for years. But you can change it eventually, if you're able to learn from that feedback. So one of those things, you need to have a dream, you need to learn from feedback, and constantly looking back into that dream. Am I still doing it? Am I still supporting this? Is it aligned with it or not? That's the only truth in that whole thing. Then we talk about decision, right? But we also talk about collaboration. Now, traditional organizations, they believe that process will solve things. If there is a problem, we put a process in. It should work, right? Well, there is nothing about collaboration here. So they realize some things are not that simple. So they need to assign people. You do this, you do that, or you can also volunteer and say, I will do it. But there's a clear individual responsibility. That was where my chairman of the board was actually mentally sitting. Individual responsibility needs to be clear. But there is nothing about collaboration yet. So we start to make it collaborative, right? And say, hey, I help you, or how about if you help me, offering help, asking for help. Still not really what the collaboration is about. Now, when we speak about the real collaboration in Agile space is when we do it together. There is no clear ownership. And that was really the biggest thing the people around us, like the owners of the company, etc., were fighting with. They seen it's working, but they dislike this because they never experienced it, they didn't trust it. So that collaboration is more difficult than just say, hey, let's have a workshop. I'm still deciding, but let's have a workshop. That's not what a collaboration is about, right? Now, can you take all of your decision out and say, let's just participate and see what happens? Can you stand that and let them do whatever the creative people will? Huh? Maybe, maybe not. So collaboration, it was not that simple either, because I was too used to use my knowledge. So I tried to shift it a certain way, too much. But eventually, I think the ability to learn how to facilitate and how to coach really helped me, because I stepped back and was more like a facilitator of everything and less participating. So those are the soft skills which could help there. Then, if you want to collaborate, which is critical, autonomy is the key. But now, how many of you think that you put 10 people together and they just start collaborating just like that? Anyone? I mean, if you're lucky, that would work, right? That's what we say. We have in Scrum, right? We have a Scrum team and they collaborate. Stop. That's it. What they don't tell us is there is a trust. And that trust needs to be there. If it's not, there's like no way I'm going to collaborate with you, because last time I say something in front of you, we didn't even collaborate, but you use it against me right away. I'm not saying anything in front of those people. And you turn, right? Or you become quiet, mentally turn. So that's an enabler. Now, how to build trust? There are several conversations around it today, right? Team buildings, of course. All the positivity things, all that will help a lot. But the trust, unless it's there, no one would ever collaborate. Then the second thing is some sort of a necessity, transparency. Now, transparency is fun, but how many of you have a full transparency on company finances? Ah, one? You're the owner of the company? No? Okay. But we talked before, so I know where you work. So that's part of a problem. We don't, right? How many of you, I was teaching a company, Scrum Master class, and there was a guy who said, well, we are not allowed to talk to our customer. It's officially not allowed. I was like, wow. And those people are on my Scrum training, what I'm supposed to do. They can't talk to customer. So we have all those rules, like what is visible, what is not. There is a good intent. They say, if they know everything, what is going on, it's too much noise. Well, from our perspective, we try to look at it a different way, make it available so they can check if they want to. We don't push it to them, we just make it available. They know where to go, where to look. And if they need that information, they'll go and see. They don't ask for permission. Can I see the customer, or can I know what's... No, just go and see. But the transparency is scary. So when we started to talk about like salaries, right? That's a funny part. My dream was to make those salaries available, because why not? If they are fair, if this person is much more senior and valuable to the organization than this new guy who we just hired after school, well, he deserves a higher salary. We should be able to explain it. So it was not that simple, of course. It was scary for many people, even for me. I didn't know what's going to happen, right? So what we start doing, we said, okay, we make sure we have those salaries linked. So if we order people to some groups, maybe, those salaries would be aligned. So I can actually say, where do you see yourself? And that person would say, well, similarly like those three guys because of this, this, and that. And I'm learning from those four because they are much experienced than me. And I'm actually supporting those other folks. And if I would open my spreadsheet, it would fit. Right? That was my call. And that's as far as we got. We didn't get into transparency in salaries, for example. But I just want to show it, it's scary. So yeah, transparency. And now for some environments, it's even more scary if you just say, hey, there will be someone who would see what I do during the day. and we got some conversations today, again, about the virtual world, right? There will be someone who see my video, so I better turn it off, right? So it all goes to trust, because the bigger is the trust, the more open you're willing to be. And the real collaboration needs a high transparency. And then finally, autonomy has those boundaries: trust, relationships, transparency. It defines a playground. So sometimes we say, yes, you're a self-managing team, but you actually can't decide on many things. You're not invited to the interview, for example. And sometimes we say, yes, you're a self-managing team, and you can decide who is going to be part of your team. So different levels. Now you need to find the right one for you, because it's equals the trust, transparency, autonomy. They are all linked together. Now, what I was, like, my biggest learning is this one, system point of view. So you can work on changing yourself. And I was really trying, being open about it, learning from failures, acknowledging I failed many times. But then the second step on my journey was be able to look at things from this 10,000 feet distance, the observation tower, system point of view, where you don't see the individuals anymore that much, but you feel the energy. You can see the relationships. You can see frustrations. You can see happiness. Why this team is so happy about the same thing as this team is actually completely unhappy? How fascinating. And from that standpoint, there are 3 rules. First is like look or listen for the voices of a system. So you try to look for those energy levels, ups and downs, frictions, happiness moments, and everything. The second rule would be who knows what is right and what is wrong? Actually, who knows? I forgot to bring those books. If I would bring them, so that's wrong, right? I should have planned better, I guess. Now, if I would forget them, I would never tell you that much about that failure, which I think is a good thing to tell you about that. So it's not completely wrong. And maybe, after all, now when I was thinking about it, you might even remember that book more, so it might contribute better than giving the books away. And you know where I'm heading to. There is no right, no wrong. From all different angles, it will give you a different perspective. And then the positivity, right? I really like that positivity aspect today. Everyone is right, but only partially. If there is a 2% of truth in what everyone is saying, can you identify it? Can you see it? Can you believe it? How would it look like? How would you know? Now, when I started with this, I was on a different thing. I was used to, they teach you at school. This is the right answer. This is a wrong answer. Black and white. Completely different words. So I was not there, black and white, but I was very close to that. This is a failure, it's bad. This is a success, it's good, right? Now, what I learned over the years working with teams is very surprising. Those teams who actually were successful first few iterations were not growing that much. They didn't learn how to inspect and adapt. While the teams who were failing miserably, completely screw up and have an argument about it, they actually become much better teams together. So was that good or was that bad? I start doubting this. And then when I start doing this on a regular basis, okay, what's the other perspective? What's the other perspective? Can I see all those voices of a system? Can I go to that observation tower, stop judging because there is no right or wrong exist? Then the positivity came and I was like, well, I clearly can't see anything good about, use my same example, me forgetting the books. Well, yes, there was something good about it. It forced me to talk about it. It forced me to think about it. It forced me to plan better next time. Because if I have 5 conferences till the end of a year, maybe I should have a bigger stock, right? Etc., etc. So there is no right, no wrong, and if you apply that to your teams, you're going to be already on quite a great way to become an agile leader, changing yourself at the end of the day. Culture has two parts, mindset and structure. They're like one living creature, like a butterfly. Now, some of us tend to work with mindset. I like to work with mindset because it's more fun, that's what I do, that's what I enjoy. Some of us prefer to work with structure and implement some new rule or position, tool. Which one is right, which one is wrong? Well, they are both good, right? You need to find the balance. Because if those two goes too far away, that nice butterfly will die. So you can't do it. So you need to find that balance. It's like really moving there, but no right, no wrong. And it has one more keyword there, safety. Because if it's not safe, it will hide. And that's killing it. So how can we make it more safe, right? So first of all, we already talked about it. Have a clear purpose of our existence, which unify us, which give us the same perspective. So we don't argue which direction is right because we all know that one. Then trust, transparency, autonomy, which is not too big, is just about right considering the level of trust, transparency, and the understanding of a goal. They are all linked together, right? And if you have that right, the safety is there, and that nice butterfly will move through the space and enjoy, and it's reinforcing positive force. But if not, it's going to hide, and it doesn't work. So it will tell you. The energy in the room will always tell you, do we have it set right or not? Now, do you know what to do? Well, that's a very different story. When I didn't know what's going wrong, but I've seen it, I can feel it, right? I went up mentally to that observation tower and started looking for signals. What's going on? Let me understand that. Let's see the whole perspective. It's all about experiments. Several speakers before me talk about experiments, right? But are you afraid to take experiment? What if I tell you that 8 out of 10 experiments need to fail so the 2 could be successful? Would you be able to say it to your manager? Someone? Ah, some of you, yeah, some of you, yes, some of you, no. I was having this slightly different talk, but the experiment was there in a bank. And when I say 8 out of 10 needs to fail, you should see their faces. It's impossible. We are, the bank. You can't fail. So also part of it is like choose your language. We can say this sentence, which is very strong. I use it when I want to shake with people. On the other hand, when I want better, smooth thinking about it, start exploring things, I would not use even the word experiments. I would just say, hey, can you imagine you would try something slightly differently? Right? Same thing, but it sounds different. But at the end of the day, it's not about trying. It's about ability to trash and learn from that. If you can't learn, then you're not moving ahead. And we did so many mistakes on our journey that I can't even remember all of them. It was hard. It was tough. My brilliant idea, we open salaries. Another brilliant idea, we get rid of positions. Because they are not needed if we have cross-functional teams, right? Let's just have team members. You could imagine that guy, the chairman of the board, what he says to my brilliant idea. He was like, no, that's not fancy enough. We are a technical excellence company here. We do important stuff. You can't do it. He's like, yeah, but they don't have those roles. So we talk there and back. And then he said, okay, maybe we can call them engineers. I was like, yeah, that's you, the purpose, I don't care. could be engineers. It was actually a brilliant idea, because then I can come to people and say to them, hey, you're an engineer. You're here to solve problems. You're not here to code or test or whatever else. You're here to solve problems for our customers. Do it. So that was great. So what you learn over the years through those experiments and open collaboration and everything, that people will come up with much better ideas than you ever can imagine. You might initiate something as a leader, but that's about it. Then the more you go, the more you take a few steps back and just hold the space. Let them collaborate. Let them have just enough autonomy so they don't freak out. We don't break that safety. We build the trust, build stronger relationships, higher autonomy, bigger purpose, bigger space. Now, everyone is a leader. We said that at the beginning. You all are. But maybe one thing is, what do I do to become that leader? What do I need to change it myself to be a role model? And second, what can I do so I will grow the leaders around? Because that's even harder. For me, I was not ready to do that. I was not confident myself. I would not stand here at that time and say, I'm a leader and I will help you to become leaders as well. Never, ever. But you need to have little, 2% of what I just said. So you can actually say, okay, how can I help those other people around me to become leaders as well? Can I maybe step back and give them a space to take over? And I need to do it earlier than when I feel they are ready. Because when they are ready, they are already bored. They are already mentally on the way out of the organization. So how do I do it? Not too early so they don't freak out, but not too late so they don't leave. So one concept which I found extremely interesting is this Bill Joyner's leadership agility. He describes those 3 levels of leadership. It's like a 3 people inside of each other, right? The smaller one, the blue one, is the expert. I know how to do things. I am the expert, and I'm smarter than all the other people around. Therefore, I'm an expert. I can advise, I can teach, I can mentor. I have my experience. I'm great. And it doesn't have to be in everything. It could be in this one tiny thing. And of course, all the other people would be the experts for the other things. That's how you've been promoted at the beginning. That's how I was promoted. I was the expert. I knew how to do back-end code. So I can teach some of the other younger guys how to do that. As simple as that, expert. And then when the organization grows and everything is bigger, you say, okay, we don't need just the experts. It's too complicated anyway. We need achievers. Now, achiever can set the goals. Give them some sort of a ladder. Where to go, how to climb, how to improve. You're still an expert. You still know certain things, but you can actually lead in much bigger space. Because you just put on a map some places where they need to figure out the way. And the third one, that's where the Agile Leader came in place. That's what we've been trying to talk about here, is catalyst. You are still the expert on something. So currently, I'm expert on Scrum. I teach it for years. I can say that. I experience it. I've been working on a team. I've been working as product owner. I've been working as Scrum Master. Could be. Now, am I an achiever? Yeah, I was doing some work like this. I can imagine set goals and give people space, and it doesn't matter if you call it KPIs, OKRs, or whatever else. Yes, you set some objectives, you help people to go there, you make success together. But they do it their own way already. Now, becoming a catalyst, that requires from me to do really that step back and say, it's all yours. You can always ask me if you need me. I want to know what's going on, but you have my full trust. that you're going to make the greatest decision ever. I tested it when I went for a 9-week vacation. It was 1 year from the beginning of our transformation. I didn't know what's going to happen. I was afraid that they're not going to make it. So what I did, I sent a couple emails. Hey, here are my pictures from diving. How is it going in the company? They say, oh, nice pictures. Enjoy your vacation. We are fine. So when I came back, I thought, like, maybe I don't have a job anymore. Maybe they don't need me, right? Like, I was so much giving them the space and teaching them to take over. They become leaders. They don't need me. What am I supposed to be doing? Their first sentence when I show up back after my vacation was like, we're glad you're back. We did those 5 big decisions, which you should know about. Here are the 5 reasons why we did that way. And actually, we are glad that you're going to be making those decisions from now on again. So they was like, they still need me. I'll give them all that trust. The second biggest surprise was I didn't have to correct anything, even a tiny bit. It was like, why? They know exactly what I would do. Unbelievable. And they were even able to say no to our owners. They were about to shift something a certain way, and they said, she would not like it. You need to wait for her. And they insist. She was like, wow, they said no to the top level managers. They can fire them in a second. That's the owners can do. They have an ultimate power of everything. I was like, wow, I'm so proud on them. But they did just well. Some of those things they solved better than I would. So, good success, right? But it's hard to let go. Because we believe, what if something goes wrong? We have all those fears. What if I screw up again? Well, then what? Then we learn. Not a big deal. My summary slide. 3 things. Agile is not your goal. It's just the best way how to achieve some of your goals. Keep that in mind. Never start changing just because there is some new method, or you just went to a conference or training. It's not important. Change me is the hashtag I use, like be a role model. Leaders need to change first, the organization will follow. If I would not change my own behavior, we would never make it there. Because I would be killing it at the same time as I would be trying to build it. And finally, everyone is a leader. You are all leaders. So don't wait for anybody else to change things. You have it all in your hands. Thank you very much. If you want to connect with me, there is a LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you so much. And I guess it's time for questions, if we have any. Who's the bravest one here? Okay, so can bring my.
So you said you were on vacation for 9 weeks. How long have you been working with that team afterwards?
After that vacation?
Yeah.
For another year.
And what changed you after 1 year? What happened?
Well, our owners changed again. So with one set of owners, you go to the management. With second set of owners, the entire management goes to the street, looking like what's happening. And the new were already waiting in the meeting room. You know.
So have you tried your approach in the next place where you were working? Or?
Well, I started my own company.
Okay, so you tried it in your own company?
And through that, I'm trying to work with all the other organizations with helping them to understand the mindset of this change and the necessity of change on the leadership level, etc. So I was working with, for example, a group of owners of a company, helping them to understand that shift in their leadership miles. But I work with teams, I work with Scrum Masters, pretty much flexible in that. My mission here, why I do what I do, is like I want people to reconnect back to that mindset, to have that pure understanding. Why did we start this Agile at the first place at all? And then it doesn't really matter which role you're in, because you can make a difference whenever you are.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Do we have more questions from the audience?
Hello. So my question is about, I read a lot about those flat organizations and that the dream of not having managers. How do you do it yourself? Because then I understand you try to shelter the team members from the upper management, from the CEO. But how did you manage it down? Like, how did you, there were a lot of people, and could you share some tips?
We got 120 people. It was not that big, right? So it was a nice size to try. Mm-hmm. I think you always need to scale first, learn how the teams work and what does it mean at the team level, 7 individuals, right? Or 5 or 10. And build a couple teams so you understand that. And then I think 100 people-ish was just about the right size. So what happened at the very beginning was that I think everybody wanted to talk to me personally. And if I would do it again, I would actually create a team of people who would be like always taking those conversations. I was mostly explaining it myself and answering it myself, and over the time we built that team. But I would do it much earlier. It was all me dependent at the beginning, and I would not repeat that. First of all, it was stressful and too much work, and second of all, I didn't show the right example of my own behavior, right? So I said I was on that journey as well, and with each sort of try, you learn what does it really mean, and what worked, what didn't, and you need to try it several times. So, but I would really say that give them the trust with everything. So we, for example, say you can choose whenever you want to have vacation. There is a system where you fill it in. And every morning I just, click yes. I'm not going to check it. But you need to be responsible. You're a team member, so you need to tell your team I'm going on vacation on those dates. And we'll make sure that you know everything, etc. We never say no to vacation anyway. There was some sort of company rule even before. So we say you can take vacation whenever you want to. That's just one example, right? So we completely delegate it, but we also reinforce the responsibilities. So when it happened in one part of the organization that they actually left for vacation without passing things around, well, we have a very interesting conversation when that person shows up back and was like, oh, you approve it? I was like, well, that's not how that works here, right? So let's talk about it. And it never happened after that. We also make that like publicly available, that this is not how we're going to work together, that the team is the most important. They need to know. Even if you're ill, what are you going to do? You call your team, I'm ill, I can't do anything, sorry, and I'm so bad that I can't even tell you where I finished. And they figure that out. Right? So some of those rules like that. But I think the transparency helped us a lot. We increase it. Having that purpose, it's about those things in the right mix.
And what about the performance reviews?
So we cancel them as well as the performance reviews, but we have a peer feedback. So the people were giving feedback to each other. Some sort of this, the original version is you distribute $100 to each individual and ask them to distribute it back to your team members. We played with stars. So we were distributing stars. Money would be too big risk for us, but stars. And we also have like regular retrospectives because we were all running in Scrum, those teams. So we have a regular Scrum retrospectives. But quarterly basis, those peer reviews, we actually facilitate it again by Scrum Masters, where you actually know what's going on. And we also have a rule, if there is a problem, we need to solve it immediately. We don't wait for a quarter review. The Scrum Masters will know, the team members will know. So we are here to help that person. And that was another shift which was very difficult. I was, this first low performer, I was about to fire him. Because the Scrum Masters tried to help, teams tried to help, he was clearly not performing, so that's what we do, we fire that person. But we were a very transparent organization, so I went to the top 4, our owner, finance, me, and one business development director. And I said, okay, we are about to fire this person because of blah, 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 business case around it. I realized I can't fire him because our owner was always like asking, but I know this guy, he's with us for 5 years, right? I was like, yes, so how is that relevant, right? I remember he was working on that project. I was like, yeah, and that project was successful. was like, yes, but he's now not performing, right? What am I missing? I realized what I'm missing is my job as a leader in that organization to create an environment so he actually gonna be successful. We can fire anybody if they do something wrong to the company, like try to sell clients or I don't know. We can fire anybody in that probation period, first 3 months. But if we have a person who's been with us, well-functioning, for a longer period of time, I realize I can't fire him, no matter how many titles I have, director of engineering, director of HR of the entire company. I was frustrated like hell. I didn't know what to do. So when I don't know what to do, I start coaching. So I start coaching that person because I can't afford having Scrum Masters who say, I don't know what to do. Team members, I don't know what to do. So I said, I'm the only one who is here to solve problems if they don't know what to do. So I start coaching. And very soon after, we reflect on something and realize something. Next quarter, he became the highest performer from that peer review. And I was like, that's a mistake, right? You shifted those stars somewhere else, you make a mistake. They were, no. He's now, doing slightly different work. We learned that he's great at this and blah, blah, blah. Turns out he was really good, sense for detail, really great at explanatory testing. He can find a bug in like no time and repeat it. So that was actually quite valuable, considering some other testers who were like, it's not working. When? We don't know. It just crashed. I don't know, right? So this guy was saying, well, it's not working, and exactly those steps are reproduced. Well, wonderful, right? So that's one thing where I start learning this, that whoever you have in front of you, those are the best people you could ever have. And it's only your job to make it happen. So if they behave weird, it's because of the environment where you put them. So what I teach Scrum Masters now, there are no lazy, they always ask, there are no lazy people exist. It's just an environment which creates that lazy behavior. Fix that environment. That's why you're a Scrum Master, and that's exactly the reason why you're not a manager. So you can't fire them. All you can do is to act as an Agile leader and fix it. And I truly believe in it. It's for a longer conversation maybe, but that's the bottom line.
Amazing. Thank you.